Hello and welcome to my channel, Bogdan #7.
Bruh. The 1950s and the early 1960s marked an exciting beginning of Formula One racing, but now, coming to its 14th season, the motorsport was better than ever. But, as Fangio and Ascari had done previously, there was one man who would come to dominate the next few seasons. 10 rounds were on the calendar for the 1963 season, which kicked off in late May in Monaco. It was a new season, new entries, but the dominant teams were pretty much unchanged. Clark was far up to take another pole at Monaco, with defending world champion Graham Hill behind him. Surtees settled into third place. Lotus was beginning to hope of contending for a world championship. Clark did not get off the line very well and was passed by Hill and Ginter. He soon got back to speed and by lap 18 was in the lead. He unfortunately had his gearbox locking up, with him retiring. Hill would win in a BRM 1-2 ahead of McLaren. The best 5 and then 6 positions only counted for the drivers and constructors respectively for the season, and then came McLaren, Surtees, Max and Taylor. The qualifying session for the Belgian Grand Prix saw Graham Hill continue his good form to take pole from Dan Gurney and the Ferrari of Marais. It was a quick start by Clark to lead from start to finish, and as a lot of incidents happened, only 2 cars were on the lead lap at the finish. It was McLaren second, Gurney third, Inter fourth, Bonnier fifth and the Beaufort sixth. It was pole at Zandvoort for Clark, ahead of Graham Hill and McLaren on the front row. It was another easy win for Clark, but Gurney fought from 14th place in qualifying to second at the end of the race. He was followed by Surtees, Ireland in his BRP BRM, Ginter and Ferrari's recruit Scarfiotti. It was Clark taking pole once again, this time at Rams, as he was ahead of Graham Hill and Dan Gurney's Brabham. An unusual thing happened at the start. G or Graham Hill had a push start, but the officials let him race from his starting position. Clark had once again won with ease, solidifying his position as the undisputed leader of the championship ahead of Max, Hill, who was not given points because of his push start, Brabham, Gurney and Seifert. Clark took pole at Silverstone from Gurney and G. Hill once again, and after a scrappy start, he won again from Surtees, Graham Hill, Ginter, Bandini and Hall. A few weeks later, Clark was dominant to take pole from Surtees and Bandini at the German Grand Prix, and to heavy crashes in the race saw McLaren knocked unconscious Emma Rees and his F1 career. There were engine problems for Clark, so Surtees won from Clark, Ginter, Meter, Hall and Bonnier. Surtees took pole in Italy from Graham Hill and Clark, but Scott continued to impress by winning from Ginter, McLaren, Ireland, who did not finish but was still classified, Brabham and Max. The US Grand Prix saw Graham Hill take pole from Clark and Surtees. Clark couldn't start his car, leaving G. Hill to win from Ginter, Clark recovering to third, Brabham, Bandini and the Beaufort in the points. Clark took the pole from Surtees and Graham Hill in Mexico, easily winning and equaling Fangio's record of 6 wins in the championship and his first world championship from Brabham, Ginter, Graham Hill, Bonnier and Gurney. 2 months later, we were on to the finish of the season in South Africa. Clark took pole from Brabham and Gurney, and won for a record 7th time in the season. It was Gurney, Graham Hill, McLaren, Bandini and Bonnier behind him. Clark won the drivers on 54 points, followed by Hill, Ginter, Surtees, Gurney and so many more. In the constructors, it was Lotus Climax winning, from BRM, Brabham Climax, Ferrari, Cooper Climax and so many more. It was complete domination by Clark, and he didn't want to stop. A new season had kicked off in Monaco, featuring another 10 races. This includes the Austrian Grand Prix, held at the infamous Velvet track, often regarded as the worst Formula One track in history, which is in proximity to the contemporary circuit. It was Clark on pole again in the season opener, ahead of Brabham and Surtees. Clark to the lead, but an anti-roll bar trailing meant he was called to the piste to remove it, and after engine problems finished fourth, behind ultimate Randall, Ginter and Graham Hill, who won, and ahead of Bonnier and Haywood in the points. Again, we had a 9-6-4-3-2-1 points on this system, with the best 6 finishes counting in both championships. It was Gurney taking pole from Clark and Graham Hill in Zandvoort, but the reigning world champion won by 53.6 seconds to Surtees. Randall, who was keeping up the pace with his teammate Graham Hill, Chris Amon and Anderson. Honda debuted at the Belgium Grand Prix, where it was once again Gurney on pole from Graham Hill and Brabham, but it was once again Clark winning, but just from McLaren, Brabham, Ginter, and the 2 who didn't complete the race, but were still classified with points, Graham Hill and Gurney. Clark now had the championship lead, and then took pole in France from Gurney and Surtees. Clark retired with engine trouble, letting Gurney win for a second time from Graham Hill, Brabham, Randall, Ginter, and McLaren. At the Brands Hatch, pole was taken by Clark from Graham Hill and Gurney. The squad held on to win from Graham Hill, recovering Surtees, Brabham, Bandini, and returning Phil Hill. At the Nordschleife, it was Surtees on pole from Clark and Gurney. It was Surtees holding on to win from Graham Hill, Bandini, Seifert, and old Tritinian and Max. Clark retired, letting Graham Hill lead the championship again. The Zeltweg Airfield saw a very bad Austrian Grand Prix, where Graham Hill took pole from Surtees and Clark. Cars were disintegrating on track, so Lorenzo Bandini won his first Grand Prix. Behind him came Ginter, Anderson, Max, Arland, and Bonnier. At Monza, Surtees kept impressing with another pole position from Gurney and Graham Hill. He won again, this time from McLaren, and on from Bandini, Ginter, Arland, and Spence. After Ferrari took the constructors' lead, Clark fought back to take pole in the US Grand Prix from Surtees and Gurney. The squad once again had problems, letting Graham Hill win from Surtees, Seifert, Ginter, Hansgen, and Taylor. Graham Hill, Surtees, and Clark battled for the title in Mexico, where the latter took pole from Gurney and Bandini. Surtees was 4th and Graham Hill 6th. He lost hope when he had problems and eventually finished 11th. Clark was on his way to a second consecutive title, easily leading the race, when on the final lap an oil leak appeared, letting Gurney, Surtees, Bandini, and Spence to get through, just finishing ahead of Pedro Rodriguez. Surtees was now crowned champion on 40 points, the first on 2 and 4 wheels, ahead of Graham Hill, Clark, Ginter, Bandini, and so many more. Ferrari won the constructors from BRM, Lowe's Climax, Brabham Climax, Cooper Climax, and so many more. The consistency of Formula One's title battles had become well known, yet there were still more to come. The 1965 season started in 1964, with qualifying for the first of 10 races on the calendar being in South Africa, as the race was held on the 1st of January. Clark took pole from the world champion Surtees and Brabham. Clark would lead from the get-go to win by 29 seconds to Surtees, Graham Hill, Spence, completing a British 1-2-3-4 ahead of McLaren and a debutant, Jackie Stewart. 5 months later, in May, we had the Monaco Grand Prix. It was the BRM of Graham Hill on pole from Brabham and Stewart. Graham Hill would hold on to first place, ahead of Bandini, Stewart, Surtees, McLaren, and Seifert in the race, taking the championship lead. Clark and Gurney missed the race, competing in the Indy 500. They were back for the Belgian Grand Prix, where Graham Hill once again took pole from Clark and Stewart. Clark won in front of Stewart in Scottish 1-2, followed by McLaren, Brabham, Graham Hill, and Ginter. Clark retook the championship lead. The new charade circuit would see Clark take pole from Stewart and Bandini. Clark could win again from Stewart, Surtees, Denny Hulme, Graham Hill, and Seifert. The British Grand Prix So Clark take pole from Graham Hill and Ginter. The pole sitter would win again from Graham Hill, Surtees, Spence, Stewart, and Gurney. As Zandvoort, Graham Hill would take pole from Clark and Ginter. Clark would win once again from Stewart, Gurney, Graham Hill, Hulme, and Ginter. The German Grand Prix saw Clark once again take pole by 3.4 seconds from Stewart and Graham Hill. Clark would extend his championship lead by winning from Graham Hill, Gurney, a certain Jochen Rindt, Brabham, and Bandini. Clark won the World Championship. Clark would still secure the pole position in Monza ahead of Surtees and Stewart. A failed pump issue ended Clark's 5-race winning streak. Stewart won his first Grand Prix from Graham Hill, Gurney, Bandini, McLaren, and Atwood. In Watkins Glen, Graham Hill took pole from Clark and Ginter. Clark once again had problems, letting Graham Hill win from Gurney, Brabham, Bandini, Pedro Rodriguez, and Rindt. Clark fought back to take pole in Mexico ahead of Gurney and Ginter. Engine problems yet again from Clark meant that Ginter won from Gurney, Spence, Seifert, Bucknam, and Atwood. No points in the last 3 races, but Clark won the Drivers' Championship from Graham Hill, Stewart, Gurney, Surtees, and so many more. In the Constructors, it was Climax won from BRM, Brabham Climax, Ferrari, Cooper Climax, and so many more. Clark had just won not only the Formula 1 Championship, but the Indy 500 also. Sorry for the 1-day delay. Like, subscribe, and goodbye.